everybody, I'm Katallina, and today we're talking about episode 6 of Unnamed Memory. This week's episode was definitely a trip. I mean, on one hand, I think this might be the best that Unnamed Memory has been. On the other hand, it shows just how much is actually missing potentially from what we as anime only are seeing, because holy crap were there some holes in this. This kind of felt like I went to a garage sale, I bought a puzzle, I brought it home, and I discovered that like a quarter of the pieces were missing. Because there were just some things that happened here where I was like, what on earth did I just watch? I think we should start by talking about that kiss between Tinasha and Oscar, because that was just really weird. It came completely out of left field. It made no sense in the context of where it was going on in the story, and yet, boop, there it was. And then, when I went down into the comments section on Crunchyroll, I found out that actually that kiss did not happen there in the original source material, and that it was actually a situation later on in the story where it was Tinasha who kissed Oscar before everything else in this episode went down. And I'm like, yeah, that would make a lot more sense, because it's been Tinasha who has been resisting his advances and who has been like stating her disinterest in him. So for him to kiss her was like, okay, dude, you've just like broken the barrier there, buddy, because she hasn't really shown a lot of direct and like solid interest in him. But instead, if it was her kissing him, it would show a change and a shift in their relation, only to then be swept up in what happened later on. But that's not what we got, and that change was such a mistake, and I don't get why they did it. And it just drove me up the wall, because it reinforced this idea that Oscar has absolutely no regard for what Tinasha wants, and it also blocked us from actually seeing that Tinasha was actually building and growing in how she felt about Oscar in a way that was visual rather than in a way where somebody told us later on. So I was really not cool with that. The next thing I need to say is that I have not seen this many death flags for a character since I watched the Farscape movie, and then there was all the stuff that happened surrounding the character of Dargo. What the hell is with that? That drove me up the wall. I get in hindsight that with her transferring ownership of the dragon and with her breaking the curse and everything else, that she is aware that Lanak is coming and is looking for her. For anyone who's been following me, that's the guy I keep calling hot but evil. We're just going to be referring to him as evil from here on out, because we're going to talk about how he pissed me off later. Promise. But like, it was just so wild with the idea that she had done all of these things and was setting all this stuff up, and it was like she knew something was going to happen and shift and change. And as the audience, we were just really damned confused. And poor Oscar must have been really confused as well. One thing that I found myself liking that surprised me were the two different scenes that we have with Oscar's father. I thought that both of these were fantastic. The scene that he has with Tinasha, where they're talking and he's thanking her for healing the curse, and then he actually tells her that he wishes she would just marry Oscar because it's what he wants. I thought that was very sweet, because it's clear that he really cares about his son, and he really wants Oscar to like have the things that he wants in life, which is a perfectly normal proposition for a father, and which is an interesting angle for a king. I mean, from his perspective as a leader and as somebody who is responsible to his people, it would be entirely possible, as Tinasha has pointed out herself, for him to not want her and Oscar to be involved, because it would potentially be a detriment to the kingdom and it would cause negative possible interactions with other nations. And yet, that's not what we get from him here, and I thought that was really cool. I also really loved the scene with him at the ending, and the way that he turns what Oscar is saying and doing around on its head, and that we end with the episode basically with him going, well then, you be king, and not in a petty or a mean way, but in a, it's time for you to actually learn and step up and take responsibilities. And I'm so glad about this, because one thing that we've seen a lot of in this show is that Oscar is the one who is constantly making all of the decisions. This older fellow, this king, his father, seems like he's been on the backbench for quite some time. And I really admire the fact that this man was able and willing to recognize that it might be time for him to step down, and it might be time for him to pass on power to his younger and more like energetic and ambitious son. Now, that could be a good thing or a bad thing going forward. We'll have to wait and see. But one of the best ways to know whether or not somebody is someone who would likely be fit to hold power is how willing and able they are to potentially relinquish it. Because somebody who clutches onto power like it's Linus's blanket or something is not somebody that you want having it. So that was something I found really interesting and that really connected with me. Seeing Tinasha's backstory really hit me hard, because I've been very critical of Tinasha and I've given her shit on multiple occasions, but now understanding what she's been through, even if it's just in part, I can really see why she would feel the way she would feel about things. And obviously this isn't just somebody who has dealt with trauma, but they dealt with trauma in one of the most intimate and personal ways somebody could conceivably be betrayed. And it's no wonder she doesn't want to connect with anybody. It's no wonder she doesn't trust anybody. And I mean, with how messed up her situation ended up being, I mean, she probably doesn't even fully trust herself. And that's heartbreaking, because she seems like generally a pretty decent character. And to see her going through that and to realize that she was just a girl when this was happening to her was absolute bullshit. And one thing I have to say, I mean, I don't mind Oscar, and I've gone to bat for Oscar in the past, but in this particular situation, I have to yell at you, sir, because what the actual hell was that after hearing all of this horrific shit that's happened to the woman you claim to love at this point, where your reaction isn't, oh my god, what the hell, what did he do to her? But instead, what does she think about me? It's like, I wanted to jump through the frickin' screen and clock him, because that is one of the most disgustingly selfish reactions I've ever seen somebody give to something like that. I mean, there were other people who were not as close to Tinasha weeping, and he was like, well, what's her intent toward me? Now, from a more logical perspective with a bit less emotion, I can understand the idea that he's probably thinking of that because, holy crap, dude, she took off with this lunatic, and now he's gonna have to come in and clean up the pieces, and he is capable of doing that. So understanding what her intent is toward him is an intelligent and logical question in that regard. But the timing of it in the moment was just so sour that it made me just want to like toss up my desk. I was so mad. I couldn't believe that that was his reaction. It was like, my brother, what is wrong with you? Because that was just wild to me. I do love how the Witch of the Forest turns it around on him though, and is like, well, we can see evidence of what she thinks of you. It's very simple. And she shows him the fact that Tinasha actually marked away his protective ability so that Lanak wouldn't see it. And the fact that she left Oscar caring for her dragon is another clear sign of what she thought of him and how she viewed him. Okay, on to something that really disappointed me. And I shouldn't really be that disappointed because the character wasn't really in the show enough for me to build a deep attachment. But we gotta talk about Lanak, because I've been jokingly calling him like hot but evil and stuff, but this man is nothing but pure evil, and this is coming from somebody who normally loves villains. I'm normally the first person who's gonna like reach out a sympathetic hanky in a story to somebody like this, because I'm like, well, what happened to you? What made you this way? Why are you this way? It doesn't make what somebody does okay, but I'm usually somebody who's very much there to find out what the full story was. Well, this guy, we know what the full story was now, or at least we know enough. I mean, considering how much is missing in this show, I'm not stupid enough to say we know the full story, because we probably don't. But we know enough from what we saw in that flashback to know that this guy is a piece of shit. And I will say it flat up front right now to you guys. This is somebody, I don't just want Oscar to kill him. I want him to freaking suffer, because what he did to Tinasha was so vile on so many levels. I just can't get over how mad I am about it, because holy crap, dude, that has to be one of the most absolutely disgusting betrayals I have ever seen one character perform toward another character in all my born days watching anime, movies, TV, you name it. Just wow. I cannot think of another time I have been quite this upset. And it said something where, like, as I've said, I've been kind of hot and cold on certain characters and stuff all throughout this. But I mean, like, yo, wrong is wrong. And that wasn't just wrong in a, oh, this is right from my perspective because of this. No. This is somebody you were going to be spending your life beside. This was somebody who was going to be sharing their power with you, not through what you did to them, you son of a bitch, but through actually being a family and living together and ruling together, and could have been so goddamn simple. But you threw it all away. And then she ends up going with you. I'm dying to know what the actual hell that was about. And that's one of the things, along with wanting this fucker to pay, that's going to keep me watching the show. Because the romance between Tinasha and Oscar, I'm sure there's a great romance here somewhere. I'm sure that somewhere in the light novel that it's really good. I mean, I've heard lots of people sing this light novel's praises. I'm really sad to see it such a mess in the anime, but given what they've shown me with Tinasha and with Lanuk and with their past and with what's all going on now, I need to get some kind of freaking closure, because this was borderline freaking traumatic from a storytelling point of view. Oh my lord. It seems like the overall tone and goal of this show is going to be shifting from this point forward. We'll see how much that happens, and how much things actually end up just potentially reverting or going around or whatever else. But it's interesting to see that we seem to be getting a bit more momentum, and we seem to be getting more of something actually happening and progressing. This show is really good when it's doing stuff like that. This show drives me crazy when it's Oscar going, "Will you marry me? Will you marry me? Will you marry me?" Like it's Beauty and the Beast or something. Which is wild, because I love Beauty and the Beast, but I mean, those characters progress and grow and shift and change and everything. Like, I'm talking like the traditional fairy tale, not necessarily the Disney version. But like, these characters, because of the way the pacing and stuff have been, it's much harder to really get that grasp on them. So I've had a lot harder time buying into them. But holy crap, with everything that's happened in this episode, I definitely have some stuff to grasp onto now, and I'm definitely excited to see where exactly we will go next week. Anyway, those are my thoughts on this week's episode. I'd love to know what you guys thought, so feel free to leave a comment below and let me know, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!